Welcome to the Medical Coding School. In the last video, we have seen how to code the medical chart in home health coding. I tried to make it very easy for all my subscribers who might be beginners or experienced coders. If you didn't see last two videos on comprehensive guide to home health coding and how to code medical chart, I recommend you to please check those videos for better understanding on home health coding. I will add links for both the videos in description. As some of our subscribers want more videos on sample chart, I will definitely plan a series of videos explaining how to code chart for different scenarios in home health coding. In today's video, we are diving deep into one of the most important parts of home health care, the OASIS assessment and the plan of care. If you are a medical coder, nurse, or student preparing for certification like COSC or BCHHC, understanding this process is crucial for accurate documentation and coding. Let's get started. What is OASIS? OASIS stands for Outcome and Assessment Information Set. It is a standardized, patient assessment tool, used in home health agencies, that helps evaluate the patient's condition and plan care. It's required by Medicare, for all the adult patients receiving skilled care. Who does OASIS data collection apply to? OASIS data are collected for skilled Medicare and Medicaid patients, 18 years and older, except for patients receiving services for pre- or postnatal conditions. Those receiving only personal care, homemaker, or cause services are excluded from OASIS data collection and submission requirements. When did OASIS is used? OASIS data are collected at the time points listed in this table and within the required assessment timeframe. All the OASIS assessments, except transfer to inpatient facility and death at home, require the clinician to have an in-person encounter with the patient during a home visit. The transfer to an inpatient facility and death at home time points require collection of limited OASIS data, most of which may be obtained through a telephone call. Before going into OASIS, we should have clear idea about following terms used in OASIS and home health coding. First one is certification period. 60-day period during which the patient receives home health services under a physician's plan of care is called as certification period. What is important to understand here is coding, documentation, and billing are based on this time frame, and each period may have a different diagnosis, functional score, and comorbidity adjustment affecting PDGM reimbursement. Then the next is SOC or start of care. The initial visit, where the OASIS assessment is performed, and the plan of care is established as start of care. SOC must be done within 48 hours of the referral or discharge from a hospital, skilled nurse facility. It sets the foundation for coding, primary and secondary diagnosis, and care planning. It determines the initial payment grouping under PDGM. Next is ROC or resumption of care. Assessment performed when a patient returns to home health after an inpatient facility stay during an active certification period is nothing but the resumption of care. In simple words, in the 60-day certification period which starts at SOC, if suppose, due to some reason, patient admitted again to the hospital and after staying few days over there patient resumed the home health service, that time, we need to complete OASIS assessment and this is called resumption of care. ROC must be completed within 2 days or 48 hours of discharge from the inpatient stay. It is used to update OASIS and care plans if the patient's condition has changed. Now the next one is recertification or follow-up OASIS. If patient requires reassessment after completing 60-day certification period, then it is called recertification. It performed between days 56 to 60 of the current episode. It helps update diagnosis, care goals, and therapy needs, and it used for new payment grouping under PDGM. The last one is discharge. It is nothing but the formal end of the home health episode, where services are no longer needed or patient is transferred to another facility, provider. It requires OASIS discharge assessment and no diagnosis coding is included in the discharge OASIS, but it reflects patient functional outcome. Who completes OASIS? In cases involving nursing, the RN is responsible for completing the SOC comprehensive assessment, including OASIS if applicable. For a Medicare therapy-only case, the PT or SLP may conduct the SOC comprehensive assessment including OASIS. Effective January 1, 2022, OTs may conduct the SOC comprehensive assessments including OASIS for Medicare patients, when the physician's referral order does not include skilled nursing, but does include PT and/or SLP, along with OT. Any discipline qualified to perform OASIS assessments, RN, PT, SLP or OT, may complete subsequent OASIS assessments, example transfers, recertifications, resumptions of care, discharge, after the SOC. A licensed practical nurse or licensed vocational nurse, LPN or LVN, physical therapist assistant, PTA, occupational therapy assistant, OTA, medical social worker, MSW, or aide may not be responsible for completing the comprehensive assessment on OASIS. Role of medical coder in OASIS. From a coder's point of view, not all sections of the OASIS are equally relevant. Coders primarily focus on sections that impact diagnosis selection, code sequencing, PDGM groupings, and comorbidity adjustments. Now here in this video, we are going to discuss most important OASIS sections that coders must understand and review carefully. I will try to make a series of YouTube shorts on every section of OASIS in future. The first important section is M0102 date of physician, or ordered SOC or ROC. What is the date the physician ordered, start of care, SOC, or resumption of care, ROC? That should be added in this section. It refers to the date the physician ordered home health services to begin. This can be before or on the actual SOC or ROC visit date. It is the date physician officially authorized service to home health agency, so it is not necessary that the same date the patient was assessed. It helps ensure coding is compliant with the timing of documentation and aligns with face-to-face encounter requirements. It is important for verifying if orders were in place when the visit occurred. Next important section is M0104 date of referral. What is the date the agency received the patient referral for home care services? It refers to when the referral for services was received. This can occur before the physician signs the plan or before SOC or ROC. It provides context for time between referral and SOC or ROC and potential delays in documentation. It is useful for reviewing timeliness of care, especially in audits. Example: let's say a patient was referred on July 5th, physician signed orders on July 6th, and SOC was done on July 7th. Hence, M0104 referral date will be July 5th. M0102 date will be July 6th and SOC visit date will be July 7th. Coder must ensure that diagnosis is supported in documentation on or before July 7th. Next important section is M0110 episode timing. CMS will no longer use M0110 to influence payment under PDGM, however, other payers may be using this data in their PPS-like payment model. If current episode is first or second episode for the patient, then code 1 early is the right choice, and if the episode is third or later, then code 2 later will be the right answer for this M item. Unknown and not applicable should be selected if sequence of adjacent episodes is unknown or it is not applicable for patient. Dash is not a valid response for this item. Next section is M1000 inpatient discharge dates. Has the patient been discharged from an inpatient facility like hospital, SNF, rehab within the last 14 days? If the answer for this question is yes, then we need to select the appropriate response from where the patient discharged in past 14 days. Admission source impacts payment grouping and case mix weight. Coder must confirm the discharge date aligns with PDGM categorization and is supported by documentation. M1005 inpatient discharge date. Enter the actual discharge date from the most recent inpatient stay. It complements M1000 by identifying exact discharge date and also supports accuracy for PDGM 30-day billing period setup and source grouping. Coder must compare this date with ROC date or SOC date to validate institutional admission grouping eligibility. M1021 and M1023, primary diagnosis and other diagnosals. This is the most important section for coders because here we need to add the primary and secondary diagnosals. As a medical coder, your role comes in during the review of the OASIS, especially the diagnosis section. Coder must ensure primary diagnosis reflects the main reason for skilled services and secondary diagnosals should support the patient's care needs. All codes are sequenced properly and supported by documentation. OASIS section M1021, primary diagnosis, and M1023, other diagnosals, are key for coding. This data drives the patient-driven groupings model, PDGM, which directly impacts payment. Next important section is 0011, special treatments, procedures, and programs. Identifies any treatments or interventions the patient is currently receiving at home, for example, oxygen, catheter, IV, or dialysis. It includes tracheostomy care, suctioning, oxygen therapy, tube feeding, IV medications, and wound care. This section supports skill need. Validates medical necessity for Z codes like Z93.0 tracheostomy status. Diagnosis codes like J44.0 with long-term oxygen therapy. Justifies nursing or therapy involvement. M1033 risk for hospitalization. This section identifies clinical and social risk factors present that increase the risk of hospitalization. It includes recent hospitalizations, history of falls, 5 or more medications, frailty, decline in mental or emotional status, and respiratory issues. Why this section matters to coders. It supports complexity of case. It helps in comorbidity identification. And it may justify codes such as Z91.81 fall risk, R53.1 weakness, F03.90 dementia. Coder can use M1033 responses to cross-check and validate secondary diagnosis coding. Next important section is skin conditions or integumentary status, section M. Important fields are M1306 to M1324, which are specifically dedicated for details related to pressure ulcers. Coders need to be very careful for these sections. It indicates that patient has pressure ulcer or not. If patient has any, then it counts number of pressure ulcer present, stage of ulcers and most problematic ulcer in case more than single pressure ulcer. M1330 to M1334 is dedicated for stasis ulcers. It includes whether patient has any stasis ulcer or not. If yes, then how many in status of most problematic stasis ulcer. If patient had undergone any surgical intervention, then we have M1340 to M1342 section to document details on surgical wounds. It includes whether patient has surgical wound or not. If yes, what is the status of most problematic surgical wound. In this video we are just reviewing the sections of OASIS. In upcoming videos I will separately discuss each and every item in details. Coder has to code based on ulcer stage, location, healing status, presence of infection or debridement. Always cross-check with MD documentation, wound notes, and orders. Next and very important section is functional status, M1800 to M1860. The M1800 to M1860 series in the OASIS relates to the functional status of the patient, specifically activities of daily living and instrumental activities of daily living. These items are critical for home health coders and clinicians too. It assess functional ability, contribute to case mix calculation, support plan of care development and influence HHRG reimbursement and quality measures. M1800 section is for grooming activity. It is ability to groom and perform hygiene. M1810 section is for current ability to dress upper body. It means ability to dress above the waist. M1820 section is for current ability to dress lower body. It means ability to dress below the waist. M1830 section is dedicated for bathing. It means ability to bathe self. M1840 section is dedicated for toilet transferring. It is ability to get to and from toilet. M1850 section is dedicated for transferring. It is ability to move between surfaces, bed, chair. And M1860 section is dedicated for ambulation or locomotion. It is ability to walk or move using devices. We have 0 to 3 responses or 0 to 6 responses to select for the series. 0 should be selected if patient is independent with no help required. 1 means requires supervision or queuing. 2 should be selected if patient needs limited assistance. 3 is for those who requires extensive assistance. 4 should be selected if patient is dependent on others. 5 if patient is totally dependent or unable. 6 should be selected if activity not attempted due to medical restrictions or safety concerns. Here is the detailed breakdown by item. M1800 grooming is ability to brush hair, teeth, shave, wash face, not full bathing. It includes oral care, shaving, hair care and excludes bathing, dressing. M1810 upper body dressing is ability to put on or take off shirts, bras, prosthetics, or orthotics, waist up. It should be considered if the patient wears complicated clothing or medical devices. M1820 lower body dressing is ability to put on or take off underwear, pants, socks, shoes. It is important for wound or ostomy care areas. M1830 bathing is ability to bath in tub or shower or sponge bath. It includes entering or exiting tub, washing body, drying. It influences therapy needs and home safety risks. M1840 toilet transferring is ability to get to toilet or commode, clean self, and adjust clothing. M1850 transferring is ability to move from bed, chair, wheelchair. It includes use of mechanical lift or assistance. M1860 ambulation or locomotion is ability to safely walk, use wheelchair, or move independently within home. It includes navigating stairs, using assistive devices. Why these items matter for coders? It affects HHRG, Home Health Resource Group. It means directly impacts reimbursement. It help identify therapy needs, PT, OT. It should align with diagnosis, for example, a stroke, I69.351, with hemiparesis should reflect decreased mobility. And it supports medical necessity for skilled services in plan of care. Coding tip: when reviewing functional scores, look for documentation consistency in clinician notes, therapy assessments, and POC. If M186.0 shows ambulation difficulty, ensure the record supports therapy or skilled nursing needs. Discrepancies can lead to RAP suppression, ADR, or claim denials. Functional status, Section GG. Section GG0100 to GG0170, Functional Abilities and Goals. It focuses on areas related to self-care like eating, grooming, bathing, dressing and mobility like sitting, standing, walking, and stairs. This section determines functional impairment level under PDGM. It impacts payment grouping and resource use prediction. Coders don't code directly from GG series, but need to understand how functional scoring affects PDGM case mix weight. Scores for GG series can be modified by using M1800 series scores. For example, if M1840 toilet transfer is selected as dependent, then GG0170 of toilet transfer should be selected as dependent. Now, we have covered most of the OASIS sections. If you want detailed discussion on any of these or remaining sections from OASIS, please comment on this video. I will create different video on that topic. Now it's time to start for Plan of Care, POC. What is the Plan of Care, POC, or Form 485? The Plan of Care, also referred to historically as CMS Form 485, is a legally required document created by the Home Health Agency. It outlines the patient's care plan during a certification period, usually 60 days, including diagnosis, functional limitations, required services, visit frequency, goals and outcomes. It must be signed by the physician who is overseeing the care. A complete and accurate POC is critical for reimbursement, compliance, and clinical outcomes. Key sections of the Plan of Care 485 form. First section is patient information. This includes name, date of birth, address, Medicare ID, and contact details. Physician information section includes referring or ordering physician name, NPI, contact details. Then, in the certification period section, we will have start and end date, for example, SOC date plus 60 days, like the 8th of April 2025 to the 10th of February 2025. Next is diagnosis section, which covers primary, secondary, and all related ICD-10 codes. Functional limitations section has patient's physical limitations, for example, poor ambulation, hemiplegia. Activities permitted section covers what the patient is allowed to do, like weight bearing, ambulate with walker. Mental status includes alertness, oriented, confused, forgetfulness. Prognosis includes excellent, good, fair, poor. In the nutritional requirements section, we have to document what type of diet patient has prescribed, like diagnosis-specific diet, mechanically altered diet or tube feeding. Medications section includes full medication list with dosage, route and frequency. Any drug or food allergies should be noted in allergies section. Next is services ordered section. It is very important part of Plan of Care because it includes specific order for skilled nursing, PT, OT, ST, HHA, MSW with visit frequency details. For example, SN to week 9, which means SN is coming to visit patient 2 times in a week for consecutive 9 weeks. It means total 18 visit in the episode. Goals and outcomes sections documents all the measurable treatment goals, for examples improve mobility, wound healing. All the patient-specific goals are documented here. Interventions section includes planned interventions for nursing or therapy, for example monitor vitals or wound care. Any ordered durable medical equipment or medical supplies should be documented in DME, supplies sections. Emergency plan includes instructions for emergencies and contact information in case of emergency. Lastly, we can see physician's signature, agency RN signature, and dates in the signatures sections. In this table, I have provided some examples for few important fields. Primary diagnosis section includes diagnosis information like I50.9 for heart failure. Functional limitation includes endurance limited or requires walker. This section explains if patient has any issue or limitation to complete physical activity and also provides information about what type of assistive devices or assistance required to complete daily living activities. Goals section has specific goals for each diagnosis or limitations. For example, patient will ambulate 50 feet with walker independently by end of cert period. This has specific goal for limitation to walk independently. Order section has separate orders for every service provider like SN orders includes SN2 week 9 to monitor vitals, assess for edema and med management. Just like that PT orders includes PT2 week 6 to improve mobility and strength. DME section documents any assistive device or any medical equipment patient is using, like walker, cane or oxygen concentrator. Allergies section shows if patient has allergy for any specific medication, like sulfa drugs. For coders, why the POC matters. First, it validates code selection. POC must align with diagnoses listed in OASIS M1021 and M1023. It must support HHRG grouping for billing. Second, it justifies skilled need. The diagnosis and the interventions must prove skilled necessity for SN, PT, or any other service. Third is reimbursement compliance. CMS requires a signed, dated, and specific POC to release payment. Inaccurate or vague POC can lead to RAP suppression or denials. Lastly, it updates for recertification. It must be reviewed and updated at the start of each certification period, means every 60 days or when there's a significant change in condition. Next is common compliance tips. Ensure start date of POC matches M0090 OASIS assessment date. Double check that frequency orders are specific and measurable. For example, it should be written like to week 9 and not be written just as needed. Always add timeline for each goal. All diagnoses must have matching interventions or goals. And lastly, all POCs must be signed by the physician before billing. This is all about OASIS and plan of care. I tried to cover all the important sections here. However, I know it is important to discuss all these in detailed manner. In coming days, I will create few more videos specifically covering each and every topic in detail. Please check our older videos by visiting channel page. If you like our work, then please motivate us by dropping your valuable suggestions in comments, and also please support us by like, share and subscribe. Till then, thank you and happy coding.